What's up, everyone? So, this is Citizen of the Future and I collaborating on this month's Genfinity Lighthouse report, where we're showing you guys pretty much everything that's happening behind the scenes with the fourth industrial revolution that's not being talked about by the mainstream media, either because it's too early to talk about it, as the infrastructure of all this is still rather being laid out and standards are being set, or mainstream media is just corrupting us and showing us everything that's irrelevant to what's happening with modern society these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Citizen of the Future here. I hope everyone's doing great. Yeah, this edition is a very exciting edition. It's taken us a lot of time to put our content together. I think I've got about 15 hours in this report, writing the research and taking stuff out of the Brain Archive and putting it into digestible content to help you guys learn. And yeah, like he said, mainstream media, like I call this the quiet revolution. Mainstream media is not talking about this. They're not telling us there's a transformation going on. They're just keeping us spoon fed. They just keep giving us spoon fed information that keeps us stuck in the past, that keeps us distracted. And because they don't want the masses to take advantage of this revolution that's about to take place. Um, so yeah, we hope you guys enjoy. We're gonna do this as a quick breakdown of just some of the points in our writing, and yeah, token.
Yeah, so did you want to start off with walk us through the issues with kind of the legacy infrastructure to begin with?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good start. I think everybody watching this video wants to realize how broken is the current correspondent banking infrastructure. How broken is the current supply chain? So in this, I broke down the problems that I found in my research, and so the problems in the correspondent banking system from my research is, we all know Swift. The last banking infrastructure upgrade was Swift, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. And it hasn't updated since then. We still have, the slow and expensive cross-border payments. We've had multiple discussions on this before. It costs $50 for a cross-border transaction. You've got all these different intermediaries that add different fees and different exchange rates, and you have no tracking, right? We have no tracking when we send a cross-border payment. We've got a lack of standardization, and as you will cover some of the initiatives that in your research, there's solutions to this lack of standardization. Another big thing in the banking system is paper-based processes. Paper is slow, outdated. It's manual labor. You can't get any of the data off that paper without using OCR and some of these technologies. And one of the biggest one that nobody even realizes it exists are the Nostro and the Vostro accounts, where these are holding accounts for foreign currencies, where a bank in different parts of the world, they need to hold those holding accounts, and those holding accounts get 0% interest on the funds in there, and that can trap millions of dollars in liquidity for the global economy. Another one is the high cost for the know your customer and to maintain anti-money laundering regulations. And here they say on average, one bank spends up to $60 million a year on KYC and AML procedures. And in a study from 2016, from Thomson Reuters, that's what it was from. But KPMG also stated that banks in the U.S. alone are spending $25 billion a year on anti-money laundering compliance. So that adds up quick. That's a lot of money just being wasted because of these manual processes to verify who you're trading with and who's moving the money, etc., etc. So another thing that we just want to quickly cover before we move into like the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution and how it's transforming the globe is the problems in the supply chain. Everyone knows me for my research in the trade finance industry and the digitalization of data, and researching that side of things. So here is 12 massive problems that I found in my research journey. We have a limited access for the small, medium-sized enterprises. So that's referring to the trade finance gap. There's a $5 trillion gap in funding that is needed for small medium enterprises to get the funding for their businesses and what they actually need. We have a lack of transparency and visibility into the supply chain processes because with everything being paper, you don't know where the product is in shipment through its whole life cycle. You also have long settlement times, as transferable records can take up to 3 to 4 weeks to move funds and transfer title. That's huge. That's a waste. There's a reliance on paper. 99% of transactions are paper based that require human verification. We got the complex cross border regulations and a lack of common standards across global jurisdictions. So the whole global supply chain and banking infrastructure is completely fragmented and on these cumbersome processes. We got a high risk of fraud and counterfeiting of products and services. There's chip frauds. There's so much counterfeiting in the supply chain. There's also high operational costs for the KYC and AML, just like in the banking system. There's a reduced factory output because of COVID-19 shutdowns. So this is creating a huge bottleneck for the whole chain. There's low trust between global entities and business partners. They see others as competition when it should be working together to improve the flow of goods for the citizens. So the heavily fragmented industry, because you got to think all these different platforms and technologies in the supply chain, these management companies are all on different technologies and different infrastructure. So it doesn't communicate very well. Insufficient data gathering because of inadequate data collection infrastructure. So the need for the adoption of the industrial Internet of Things, and digital documents is a must coming into the future. There's also a semiconductor chip shortage due to the increased chip usage in 5G devices and the infrastructure bottlenecks because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So those are the problems. The list just keeps going on. I'm sure there's probably another 10 or 20 that I didn't even list. But it's never endless, and it's all because of these ancient technologies of the current system. So yeah, Token, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think those are all really essential points towards pushing forward everything regarding advancing industries as a whole, because that's kind of what helps us add value in terms of economic output, right? Finding new ways to innovate and pretty much cut costs and creating a more efficient global economy overall. So
Exactly.
I think with that said, you did a great job at listing down some of the
The
current
problems.
issues we have, along with some of the potential solutions of what's to come. I
Yep.
think now is a perfect time where we could tie these to certain distributed ledger networks that we constantly look at.
Yeah.
So one big issue with the current financial structure at the moment, beyond everything that citizens have listed, such as the Nostro and Vostro accounts and the trapping liquidity in the system. One big point is the silos within the financial industry, which I guess directly ties into everything citizens brought up. A large reason that these Nostro and Vostro accounts exist is because different financial institutions and different currencies do not interoperate. So let's say if you're trying to send US dollars and convert them into JPY, it's not a direct one-to-one conversion, but rather you have to jump through different correspondent banking networks and different currencies to get it to convert it that way. So there's multiple solutions for this, and some of the ones are standards that are being set by large standard setting bodies such as ISO, which we'll shortly get into. But one of the main solutions for interoperability as a whole, beyond finance, but even in technology, for example. So a large issue with the healthcare system is that different healthcare databases don't interoperate natively. So when you want to get healthcare from, let's say, a different part of the world where you're traveling in, that can be a massive hassle from getting your healthcare documents to verifying it in a different jurisdiction until you actually get medical attention. And of course, there's plenty of times where, in the healthcare industry especially, that time is as precious as someone's life. So one large standard being set around this is ISO TC 307, which is the standard for both blockchains and distributed ledgers. And this actually first started with Quant CEO Gilbert Verdian in his time in healthcare within the Australian healthcare government, where he was basically frustrated at the lack of interoperability within the entire healthcare industry as a whole and decided instead of, just dealing with it, he's going to try and find a solution for this. So this in return ended up becoming ISO TC 307, which again, the standard for blockchain and distributed ledgers as a whole. So basically what ISO TC 307 is standardizing is multiple different facets within blockchain. So some of these things are like governance, smart contracts, interoperability, and different use cases, which perfectly ties into our next point regarding use cases of this new standard, which is focused around the financial industry, being ISO 20022. And so this is actually harmonized within TC 307 for them to coordinate and work together down the line. Because as we've seen with a lot of talks within fintech, especially CBDCs, that the legacy financial system, from things like real time gross settlements to things like blockchains and the immutability of it, there's going to be some overlap in terms of how the legacy connects with the new tech to have them connect together, right? So ISO 20022 and ISO TC 307, both being, of course, ISO standards, will have some form of collaboration down the line. If not, that's something that's already being developed. And so with 20022, a large issue in terms of why it was developed, as citizens mentioned, was because of these different correspondent banking networks having liquidity locked into different bank accounts that realistically shouldn't be locked into place. But unfortunately, that's the only way where basically having the financial system work as a whole in terms of a global sense. So 20022 allows for much richer data context to be filled into each financial message. And of course, a financial message being a financial transaction. So that's kind of what we've got in terms of interoperating finance as a whole and also interoperability. Now, another large point of interoperability is what's been going on with the Internet Engineering Task Force, aka the IETF. So they recently just pushed through for SATP, which stands for Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, which is a standard that's being built by Quant Network, MIT, and many other large industry leaders that are collaborating on this, such as Intel, IBM. So, as that recently got pushed into the working group phase from, just overall a proof of concept, this really does show a lot of promise towards what's potentially being built for the next internet infrastructure for sending economic value. And so, as you guys can imagine, these all kind of tie together, right? With interoperating everything on the internet to sending economic value across different networks and systems to all of finance. There's also MLETR, which is a framework that's being worked on by the United Nations. And this is pretty much to create a world of paperless trading. And as many of you guys have seen in some of Citizen's previous work, a lot of paper gets wasted every single year for pretty much documents to certify trade. And beyond just being a large waste of paper, this is, of course, a massive hassle on carbon emissions, right? In terms of sending it to different recipients and intermediaries along the way. And so some projects we see in the DLT space working around this are like Morpheus Network, MNW, with their work with the both United Nations and International Chamber of Commerce, along with some other entities such as the Asian Development Bank, to help with further establishing this framework around the world and have MLETR be pretty much coded right into their framework for how the Morpheus Black platform works. And then XDC, we've seen with Inigio in various cases where actually governments have come out to show their support and potential adoption of this in different use cases and proof of concepts, as seen with China, the United Kingdoms, and Singapore. And then finally, let's touch up on sustainability and digital identities, because these are also another core facet within the fourth industrial revolution. So sustainability has been a pretty obvious one with everyone seeing the news around sustainable development goals and pretty much all that's going on with the climate, right? So Energy Web token, of course, being created by members like Shell and the Rocky Mountain Institute, which has tons of ties to large entities such as BlackRock and Rockefeller, really goes to show just how far they're taking this concept of sustainability and digital identities as a whole, as these are both things that Energy Web leverages to kind of make their network what it is. So on the sustainability end, a large standard that's being set around this are DREC and IREC. So DREC stands for Distributed Renewable Energy Credits, and IREC stands for International Renewable Energy Credits. So these both kind of play hand in hand and are basically used as a form of verification for the use and consumption of clean energy. So this is perfectly tying into the utilizations of blockchain and allowing it to use its immutable technology to verify that a certain transaction has gone through or a smart contract has been utilized. And then on the digital identity end, this is actually where the European Union comes in, another very large policymaker and regulator around the world. So their digital identity initiative, which is built in a consortium called Surpass, has actually seen Energy Web Foundation join, and they'll actually be leveraging parts of the Energy Web chain to further build upon the whole concepts of digital identities. And they'll be starting with different batteries and electric vehicles and the textile industry to begin with. Because the concepts of digital identities go far beyond what we have as identities at the moment, right? Where when you think identity, you kind of just think of personal ID, like uh, government distributed IDs, such as a driver's license or passports. But if you really think about everything happening with QR codes and RFIDs at the moment, you'll kind of realize that every little thing has an identity in its own, whether it's an electric vehicle or a specific shipment product. These all pretty much have identities that'll live online and one day they'll live on the blockchain. But that's kind of what we've got for different initiatives happening within the fourth industrial revolutions as we tie it to different projects and different blockchain networks that we commonly discuss.
Yeah, and on my report side, you guys can get into the technology, like the introduction into what the benefits are to the technology.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good summary and pretty much a way to merge both of what we commonly discuss together, right?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
being everything happening with the fourth industrial revolution, as in different facets around, as you mentioned, the banking system. Of course, there's some parts we didn't touch up on, such as AI, which is
Yeah,
another really large focal point of
I've got
the
it in
fourth
my write.
industrial
I've got
revolution
it.
overall. But
Yeah,
I'd argue that's a little
I've got it in my write up here.
okay. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you have that in your write up too, and of
yeah,
course that's a exponentially evolving industry. But I think for the most part, we've really tied a lot of this together in terms of
yeah.
official standards and frameworks being built around what's
Exactly,
going on with the fourth industrial revolution.
exactly. I agree. Um,
To finish this off, we just wanted to wrap this up with saying we create this research to help all you guys see what's really happening out there behind the scenes. And we really hope it inspires you to further dig for the truth and use these different innovations that are happening to not just learn, but to help accelerate both your daily lives and the way you do business.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, my closing statement here is, it's all the citizens versus the 1%, the elite. And, the mass population is so divided and so focused in on their own lives that they're not taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. You know, it's called the Quiet Revolution, the Fourth Industrial Revolution for a reason. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's trying to help others. Everyone's just trying to get ahead on their own path. You got some influencers that go pump shit coins and just don't actually do research. They just hype it up and then dump it on their followers. And it's sad to see that when we could all be working together and fighting for the proper legislation and regulation, but in reality, we're all divided and doing this different things. So yeah, we appreciate it if you guys can let us know in the feedback. Let us know if it helped and what you want to see of in our next report. And yeah, so citizens, keep learning, keep living, and keep improving. And the knowledge is out there. You just got to find it.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, I hope everyone had a great time diving through this month's report. And until next time, guys.